Good evening, good morning. Welcome to week 3 for PSSL 6251 here at George Washington University. Just want to start off quick YouTube lecture. Just want to start off with quick announcements. First, for the discussion boards, better job this week. Very pointed, a little bit bigger length, more detail, more involved with your personal experience, and most importantly, more analysis. I think we definitely had a lot of improvement over the past week. The one thing, I'm not going to take off this week, but for the following weeks, please use the case studies brought up in the readings to underline your point. So there's a lot of case studies from the EU-US counterterrorism cooperation, the China-Taiwan cross-straits cooperation. I think those should have been integrated into your discussion boards more frequently. I'm not going to take off this week because I should have said it last week, but from here on in, just integrate your case studies. Second announcement, Adobe Connect session. I've held these for all my classes with varying degrees of success. What I'm going to do is make this a voluntary Adobe Connect session. And what Adobe Connect is, it's just like a Skype on steroids. So I could speak to the entire class live, integrate chat rooms and PowerPoints and presentations. And I have this for every one of my classes, and I definitely want to have it for this class. I want to have a job talk. What that means is how can jobs in the federal government, jobs in the private sector, jobs in state and local level, and how this program can help you aspire to those career objectives. This is going to be just voluntary. If you want to come, great. If you can't, understand completely. But I'm going to do it Thursday, week 7, and I'll push the date out over email. But Thursday of week 7 of the class, we'll sit down for an hour, or at least live chat for an hour over the Adobe Connect. And I want to give you my experience on working in the federal government, working in the intelligence community, what jobs are available, what jobs are going to be available in the future, how to get past the USA Jobs website. And I want to also give a chance for you guys to interact, see your faces, because you probably haven't seen that in a live motion while you've been in this program. And you can learn from each other as well, what various career paths your fellow classmates may have taken. So I'm going to hold that again, week 7, the Thursday night, Eastern Standard Time, probably 8 o'clock. I'll push the exact time and date out. Thursday night, week 7, voluntary job talk via Adobe Connect. So third announcement, group project. I'm going to assign the teams next week, week 4, and the project is due week 8. You can jump up to see the scenario, or at least an overview of the scenario in the Learn in your discussion sections. But I'll have the groups broke down for week 4, and so you can at least start thinking ahead for that project. And then the final piece, paper 1. At this point, I'm taping this on Sunday night. You should have paper 1 to me imminently. I have not gotten any requests for extensions or anything like that, so paper 1 should be in my inbox by close of it, or by midnight tonight. And I want to have those back to you Monday, Tuesday, some of you probably on Wednesday. I want to have a quick turnaround so you guys can see where your writing needs improvement, or where your writing is really good, and what I'm expecting for future assignments. So that's the announcement. Just review of last week. The police partnership discussion section, again, great discussion. I think the themes are you need trust at all levels. I think most people reiterated that. You need trust at not just senior managers to senior manager, but police cop to police cop. And I think one of you said you can't be exchanging business cards at a disaster scene or at a criminal scene. And the logic there is that you have to, before the crime happens, or before the disaster, or before there's a need, you should already have those relationships established. So I think everyone pretty much reiterated that. The Taiwan-China case study is an excellent example where despite being bitter enemies, they still cooperate on issues of trafficking and money laundering that were beneficial to both groups. And I think that was a pretty good case study. One thing that kind of outlined is what I call the brotherhood of the police. And when we're talking police cooperation, police partnership, sometimes because you're both police, that kind of supersedes your nationalistic background. You have already a common understanding, and that happens in police, in military, certain intelligence agencies. That you have that understanding that supersedes your national identity. Another thing, we talked about different cultures. One thing I always harped on, it's not brought up on the readings, is different laws, different methodologies for punishment, especially when you're thinking the U.S.-Europe issue. One thing we always have a problem is the death penalty. We don't extort, a lot of countries don't extort or extradite, their murder suspects to the U.S. because we have the death penalty. We also have death penalty against juveniles, which many of the Europeans find, whatever your opinions on it, many in Europe find that appalling. That's a sticking point that I don't think that was brought up in the discussion for the police partnership section. Information technology integration, and that's going to be more important next week when we talk about Interpol and Europol. Just when you're reading the scenarios and you're going through the case studies, just imagine where are the gaps in information technology, and that could be everything from the container movements between the EU and the US, that was brought up in the Akapani article. It could be some of the other case studies, especially when we talk about Europol next week. Where are the information technology successes, and most importantly, where are the information technology shortfalls, and how do we try and fix that? So that's kind of another issue that should be, again, important this week, will become more important as we talk interagency. Be very important when we talk about interoperability when we discuss Hurricane Katrina later on in the course. And then the next discussion, I think, again, I talked about last week, the Europe versus U.S. divide. The Kagan article pretty much outlined it. I just want to again reiterate that was written, and it was written in the aftermath of 9/11, in the run-up to the Iraq War, when Europe was protesting U.S. involvement, and Kagan specifically said, hey, they're obstructionists in Europe. So that was kind of the theme that the article reiterated. It's just important to note that it was written in that time frame. I think the Akapani article, the EU-US cooperation, is almost the flip side of that. If Kagan says there's lack of cooperation, the Akapani article gives the flip side and shows that there's cooperation. And that was, I think they argue two different strategies. And again, they talk about information sharing, container shipping, and other areas that we have common ground, that even though millions of Europeans were protesting the U.S., we were still cooperating on this level. So that's kind of important to highlight. And then the printer bomber, I forgot who brought that up, but that's a good example. Let me reiterate, it's a good example of interagency cooperation, but it's important to note that was, let me back up. The printer bomber was in 2010. I was intimately familiar with this when I worked at Homeland Security. That was a case where the Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula wanted to put bombs and cartridges on printers, ship them on shipping air flights coming out of Dubai, and they would detonate over the Atlantic. The reason that worked, that was successful, is because the Saudi Arabians had a relationship with the senior members of the intelligence community here in the United States. And the Saudi Arabian intelligence chief could pick up the phone and get the intelligence chief for the United States. That's why, and no one was put on hold. No one was, there wasn't 3 different levels of bureaucracy. They had that interpersonal relationship immediately. And the U.S. intelligence community was able to intercept those largely based on that between the U.S., Saudis, Dubai, and the British were involved in that as well. I think the one thing, though, that to take away from the printer bomber incident was that interagency cooperation was almost forced because there was a crisis situation on the hotline. Sometimes it is interagency cooperation does not happen unless there's that crisis. So just want to kind of give the flip side, the two sides of the coin on that. I'm running out of time, so I just want to, again, preview for next week, Interpol and Europol. Talk about how to overcome the basic themes I want you to look at is how do they overcome information sharing? Interpol specifically. What is the problem that they solve, and how do they solve it? So it's pretty simple. What is the problem? What's the interagency problems? How do they solve it? And what are success stories? What are the failures? And Europol, Interpol have plenty of failures. And what are the lessons learned for NAFTA, which is one of your discussion points. So when you're going through the readings, just think about that. Think about what are the information challenges? What are the other problems? How does Europol and Interpol solve them? What are the lessons learned? So just think about those avenues as you're going through the readings. I look forward to your discussion points. If there's any questions or issues, please let me know. And actually, I just want to leave you with this request. If you can bring it up, shoot me an email if you think these YouTube lectures are worthwhile. The reason I bring that up is because we're trying to make the safety and security leadership program more hands-on, more lectures, not just go read this in your corner and get on a discussion board. More face-to-face, maybe more Adobe Connect sessions, more video lectures. So please let me know if you think this YouTube video is worthwhile. If you don't think it's worthwhile, let me know that as well. And if you think that there's points that need to be brought up in this, let me know that as well. So please shoot me an email after you see this and let me know if you think these YouTube lectures are working. I appreciate your input, and I look forward to the discussion section.